This year, as you know, India holds the presidency of the G20 group. We will this G20, as you know, has 20 member countries, and each presidency also invites a number of other countries, invited countries, and a number of international organizations also participate in it. So we have the presidency started on 1st December 2022, and our presidency will continue till 30th November. We took over the presidency of the G20 from Indonesia, and we will be handing over at the end of it to Brazil. So we have had so far, starting in December, meetings of various G20 working groups all over the country. And it has been the government's endeavor to make sure that every part of India has, there's a G20 meeting in all parts of India, because this is a unique opportunity. And this is so because it goes in rotation amongst the member countries of the G20. So the idea was that, this is a unique opportunity for these foreign delegates to come and see different parts of India. It will give them an exposure and an understanding of Indian cultural heritage. And we have had tourism, domestic. Goa itself, as you know, is holding a number of meetings. I think there have already been 2-3 meetings of various G20 working groups, and there will be several more over the course of India's presidency. And we've been meeting many of the delegates. They're all really excited to be here in Goa. Now, coming now to what the G20 International Financial Architecture Working Group is all about. The meeting will take place, as you know, on 6th and 7th. And this is the work of the G20 is organized into various working groups. And this France and Korea. So in the working groups that deal with financial issues, we have several working groups, and each of them have 2 co-chairs. So this particular one is co-chaired by next 2 days. From the presidency, the Ministry of Finance and the Reserve Bank of India will also jointly steer it with them. Now, what this International Financial Architecture Working Group does is it deals with, international financial architecture, as the name implies. It deals with capital flows between countries, liquidity matters, debt, then any matters related to regional funding arrangements, the multilateral development banks, and so on. So over the next 2 days, with issues that the IFA, we call it IFA working group, that the International Financial Architecture Working Group handles. Then also, while we have these sessions, we will also have we also alongside the G20 meetings, we always conduct some side events. So these side events allow delegates to have a more in-depth discussion on issues of interest. So for example, we will have a seminar on towards orderly green transition, investment requirements, and managing risks to capital flows. So what it does is it will discuss what are the implications of the requirements of green finance. That is, how can developing countries attract funding for their green projects. And then for these sort of side events and seminars, we call domestic and international experts who will have a panel discussion, and then it will be open for question and answers from the participants. Now, we are also another emphasis of the government has been that everywhere that these meetings are held, people should also know what is happening. in these G20 meetings, and what is discussed in these meetings. So we have a series of Jan Bhagidari events also, and so in Goa also a number of events such as literacy camps, financial literacy camps, and awareness campaigns. Then there was a coin mela that was held. Then a walkathon was held around G20. Then there was a Swachhata Abhiyan and quiz competition. So the idea is that this G20, the issues that it deals with have implications for everybody. So everyone should know what it's all about. So now each of these working groups meets about 3 to 4 times a year. So this is the third meeting. Our previous meeting, we had one earlier in India in Chandigarh, and we'll have one more meeting in September. So the discussions continue from one meeting to the other. So these are basically, the G20 provides a forum where these issues of key global impact comprise a large part of the GDP and the population and international trade. They come together, and what is discussed in these groups influences then what happens in other international organizations like IMF, World Bank, World Trade Organization, and so on. So it is a forum with a lot of impact. And being the presidency provides India with an opportunity to set the agenda, to work with the co-chairs of the working groups on the documents that are discussed, and generally to make sure that the voice of the global South is reflected in these. Because now we've had a unique series of emerging market economy presidency. So it's Indonesia, India, Brazil, and then South Africa. So this is an opportunity to make sure that the voice of the developing countries is represented, because otherwise the G20 has all the many of the developed countries. So that is what the Indian presidency aims to do. Ultimately, all these many working groups, the outcomes of these working groups will go to culminate in the highest level at a meeting of finance ministers and central bank governors. So that also takes place 4 times in a presidency. So the third such meeting will take place in July. So everything that is discussed here is then reported to the finance ministers and central bank governors of all the member countries, and that is how it goes. And ultimately, the presidency, the culmination and the peak point of the presidency is the leaders summit, which in India will take place in September. So this is a little bit of a background and a description of what's going to happen in this meeting in Goa, and a little bit about the process. So with that, I'll stop here for any questions that you might have. Thank you.
Shama from Doordarshan, how many delegates will be attending it, and how many international organizations will be attending, and which are they?
We have about 100 delegates, individuals have registered for this meeting. And these represent the 20 G20, 19, I mean, excluding us, 19 G20 member countries. Plus, there are 13 other countries that have been invited. And then there are a number of international organizations. So that's IMF, World Bank, then ADB, then many of the multilateral development banks, OECD, BIS, Financial Stability Board. So there are a very large number of IOs, international organizations.
Ma'am, Rupesh from PTS. One agenda is also about financial inclusion of all the countries. But we have seen that when there are phenomena like recessions that are happening in some of the countries, rest of the countries never come up with solutions. So end of this presidency, are we also looking at one particular solution for such kind of problems like recession?
One is issues like what is the state of the global economy and the problems, the macroeconomic problems of the global economy. That is discussed in one of the groups of the G20. It's called the Framework Working Group. And this group essentially looks at What are the ways to achieve strong, sustainable, balanced, and inclusive growth? So these issues are discussed, and the problems and challenges to achieving this growth, the problems that arise, the recession, unemployment, and so on, are discussed in this group. The issue that you specifically mentioned of inclusion, financial inclusion, there's another group that deals with that. There's a global partnership for financial inclusion that discusses just this, and it discusses financial inclusion from a number of different ways. For example, India has a lot to contribute in that group because of the measures it has taken on digitalization has gone a great way in improving financial inclusion, and that's also something that other countries can learn from. So yes, these issues are discussed in the G20 in different working groups.
Again, to elaborate on the digitalization, India has been leader in digitalization, especially last couple of years post-COVID. Lot of digitalization is happening. Are there any learnings for other countries which are participating in this meeting from us?
One of our priorities of this of our of the financial track side of the G20 is exactly this. That is, how can you promote financial inclusion through digital public infrastructure? So we have this G20 presidency has given India an opportunity to showcase its achievements on digitalization and on the use of digital public infrastructure for improving financial inclusion. And in fact, on the last couple of meetings of finance ministers and central bank governors, we had side events. One was in Washington, D.C., and we have had other events in India, which attracted a lot of interest on the use of DPI. So this is something that India is showcasing to the rest of the world.
Now, taking your this statement forward, which all the UPI or these kind of things will put forth, and this is the third meeting, so you've already showcased, right?
Yeah.
Two of them. So which are those?
Which
Like, are the UPI, the
yeah, so yeah.
Yeah, to answer that question, I must first explain to you what India has done. What is that path-breaking thing which everybody is talking about? We have government of India has helped create a digital public infrastructure. Okay, so our simplest explanation to you will be that we have a jam trinity. There is a Jandhan account was opened and Aadhaar's identification was made, and then mobile and internet connectivity. So this sort of an India stack is there. So these are all examples which other countries who are in that stage of development, they can emulate this. This enables us, our private sector players, to come up with applications, softwares, digital innovative solutions which can provide different solutions. So we have now aggregating solutions, we have payment solutions, we have instant transfer. One very good example is in COVID, when the entire world was struggling writing checks to their people to give them money assistance. India was transferring it digitally within no time. So those are the kind of things. They have inclusion benefits. We can very easily reach the last mile. We have economic benefits. It has an impact on growth and development. It has an impact on vulnerable sector, women, elderly, youth. They are all included. And then it also has an economic efficiency benefit. But things are faster, they are cheaper, less time is involved. So this is what India has created and has reaped significant benefits out of it. And we plan to, discuss this so that some principles can be made, maybe if some recommendations can be made. If countries who want to adopt it, they can also learn and see and adopt it. So as ma'am was saying, there is a global partnership for financial inclusion, which is a G20 working group, which is now being co-chaired by India. So that means as presidency, we are handling it now. Next year onwards, we'll handle it as a co-chair. So India has brought in a priority called raising productivity through digital public infrastructure. So that is a very big subject, a very big canvas on which all such issues can be discussed. And our country, our ministry is very confident that all countries will immensely benefit from it. And we have in our meetings and interactions seen a really great deal of interest from many other countries. For UPI, you mentioned UPI. Now countries have interest. You must have followed it. Now we are having UPI connectivity with many countries. So those are the kind of things which have cross-border benefits as well.
so these were demanded from the developed nations as well?
Developed nations also have shown keen interest. They have almost in all our interactions, India has earned lot of appreciation for the things which it has done, and all international institutions. And I think more than us discussing it, it's IMF and World Bank and institutions like this, including OECD, are very keen on discussing it. So they are always eager to partner with India so that this thing can be taken out to the larger uh, world out there.
At the beginning of the G20, there was one facility given to the international delegates about they can use UPI for their you know expenses and everything in India. How's that going?
Yeah, that is something which with help of RBI we had done. So delegates who come here, they are they're foreign nationals. But if they want to come here and use these benefits, so they had created some sort of system. And in our very first meeting, which from our ministry, it was in Bengaluru, people actually came back to us. We put a little some stalls and exhibition, and some places you can buy little artifacts and mementos for yourself. So making payment with their mobile phones, being of another country. So that we saw that it was really exciting for people to experience.
Is it still on?
Oh yeah, that is still on. Foreign delegates are, I think, provided that facility. I don't think my RBI colleagues are not here, but we can surely ask them later.
Still there, still there. It is still on. I think the detailed feedback of the delegates still to be taken, but the facility is still on with the delegates. Yeah, thank you.
Despite having many measures in place, we have seen a cybercrime in terms of financial fraud. Italy. So how do G20?
Yes, cyber fraud is a thing. See, if I put it in broader context, one of the things which Indian G20 presidency is doing is getting the economic systems to prepare for the challenges of the future. Now, challenges for the future will be many, and cyber security, digital security is one. So, in our work stream of financial sector, we have a priority devoted to cyber security. In fact, in one of our meetings, again. Our partners in G20, Reserve Bank of India, they organize a side event on cyber security, and this is very much discussed, and it is discussed at the at fairly senior level, so that people are not only aware, they can share experiences and they can discuss with each other that what solutions are being employed, what are the new challenges. So it's yeah, G20 is very well cognizant of that.
Most of the victims will be the general public who are savings money, invest.
Yes, yes. So that, yes, domestically we have been doing it already. RBI has this series RBI Kehta Hai. If you must have seen, it's very well. In spite of that, these things keep happening. We keep reminding people not to share your OTPs and passwords, and not to fall for any promises. Especially don't get lured by these things. And I think given our scale of penetration of these services, we are, I think, still very well managing it. And wherever such a fraud takes place, concerned regulatory agency steps in very quickly and tries whatever can be done to rectify that possibility of a fraud, including by G20. From that angle, yes, financial literacy is a very big part of G20 financial inclusion agenda. There has been a lot of discussion on how to educate and increase consumers or general people's awareness of financial procedures, financial safeguards, how they can be more aware of what payments they are making, what incomes they are receiving, what their savings are, how they are spending, and what are the various modes of these things available to them. So that is very useful and relevant agenda in G20.
Ma'am, end of this working group meeting, what are the call to action? What are the resolutions that we expect in the resolution?
So, as I said, these meetings and these working groups provide a forum where all these issues can be discussed in depth at the working group level, and then taken forward to finance ministers and central bank governors, and ultimately to the leaders. So some of the key issues that this particular group, and I am limiting what I'm saying to this particular working group, the International Financial Architecture Working Group. Now, this is looking at issues such as how multilateral development banks, the major one being the World Bank, can be strengthened to look at these big challenges of today, For example, they need money to deal with pandemics. Then they need to give money to very poor and low income countries to deal with climate change. Because the amount of funding required for climate change is beyond the current capacity of the World Bank and other multilateral development banks. At the same time, the original purpose for which this money was going for basic development financing in these poor countries, that is still an unfinished agenda. So, but these are major issues. So, we will not be able to say that at the end of this particular meeting, we will arrive at some concrete outcome or any solution as such. But it will discuss what is going on in these, how to strengthen these multilateral development banks, how they can use the existing finances better, how they can raise the amount of finances they have in order to give in the form of loans and grants to very poor countries. So those are the sort of issues that will be discussed. Another major issue that this particular group will discuss is how to deal with the problem of global debt. Many low-income countries are in severe debt distress. That is, they are defaulting on their loans. They are not able to pay, and without that, their development is also getting a setback. So this group will discuss what can be done. Some of it was done earlier. For example, during the time of the pandemic, a debt service suspension initiative was started so that for a certain limited period of time, these poor countries need not pay the interest on their loans. Now the discussion is that that was at the time of the pandemic. Now we have another mechanism called the Common Framework to help many of these poor countries with their debt servicing. So this group will look at how to improve that, what can be done. And so what happens is that this is all captured either in the form of a summary that the group brings out, a summary that the issued at the level of the finance minister. These are in the form of commitments or the way forward or ideas on what can be done next. So on each of these, there will be the group will be able to discuss it in detail and then recommend to the higher level on what needs to be done next. So there are no specific outcomes as such in these meetings, but these discussions are captured for ideas and the way forward.
These are also discussed in the current meeting.
Yeah, what I mentioned are all issues that are discussed in this group.
But in the current meeting.
Yeah, this is continuing. So we have several meetings over the course of the year. So this discussion is discussed. So these issues are discussed in each of these.
Any other question? Okay. So thank you very much for coming over here and having a friendly interaction. On behalf of Ministry of Finance, I'd also like to thank State Government of Goa, the civil administration, the police, and all the stakeholders who have been working tirelessly with us, to planning this meeting. And we hope that the next 2 days will be well hosted by Goa. The delegates are excited. We are also excited to have a fruitful outcome out of this meeting. Thank you very much, and I think we'll be keep on interacting in next 2 days, and the concerned press releases and whatever the updates of the meeting, we'll be sharing it through the CPR. Thank you very much. The media is not allowed in the proceedings of the meeting. The official media is allowed to cover the event, to interview the delegates when they are free. So in fact, we planned the media coverage for the excursion, but because the timing got clashed, so obviously some of you have gone, but most of you are here only. Apart from that, I think we'll share you the press release, as I said. And delegates, whenever you get the time, you can have the one-to-one interview and take the feedback from them. That's it. Thank you.